Hello, you're listening to Environmental Soup through the facilities of Trent Radio, or if you're listening, this is live. This is Ribble 808A on Twitch. Today I will be talking about the budget, Ontario's budget, and I will go through the environmental implications of the budget, as well as, um, if there's time, other items related to the environment, such as the environmental registry or even the federal budget. I don't think I'm not sure if I'll have time to talk about the federal budget, but we'll see where we get. So I'm just stretching the screen. So the first thing that you know with the budget, it's called Building a Strong Ontario 2023 Ontario Budget. There's a construction crane. And then I'll make sure I'm watching myself at the same time so I can read the chat. Oh, with the volume down. Yeah, there's a construction crane. I used Control F to find mentions of climate, and other things. I found climate was mentioned once, and I'll just double check. Climate. Oh, twice. Climate was mentioned twice. And this is a decrease since last time. Highways, last year. Highways was mentioned 80 times. Wetland was mentioned once. Clean 39 times. Green 38 times. 413 was 7. And 413 is a specific highway, which is mentioned more than climate change. Last year, according to the Norwal, which is a newspaper that focuses on the environment, it mentioned climate 5 times. There's no photo of a highway this year. It looks like construction cranes on the front page. It looks like high density development and single family homes potentially. So those no real indication of a missing middle, but maybe it's included in the report. And then it's done by the Minister of Finance. So I'm just going through the page. They talked about high inflation impacting Ontario. Let's see. They talked about the ring of fire, and they want to keep moving on the what they'll say the most promising mineral deposits in Canada. Oh, I wanted to look at what other groups are saying first. So this is about the budget. Environmental Defense is saying uh, that there was an increased reliance on gas and electricity grid will be dual. There's um, a steep fare hikes and deep cuts to service that will lead to a death spiral in transit use. There's no transit operating funding. There's lip service to tackling gridlock while throwing away public money on discredited highway sports games it knows will make motor vehicle traffic and greenhouse emissions worse. Those continuing 413 and 401 that will destroy vast swaths of farmland and habitat. Um, Environmental Defense is pleased about um, transit-oriented development. So that's Environmental Defense. And I did save some bookmarks, so I'm gonna. Twiddle makes me go to the top, most recent. So I'm just finding a tweet. This is all the bookmarks that I saved, so it's safe to explore. I saved Mike Schreiner's analysis of the budget. Emma McIntosh of the Norwal said, to be quite transparent, Fatima and I are not writing a standalone story about Ontario's 2023 budget because there just isn't enough that's new there on the environmental front. We would basically be writing the same story that we did last year, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And then Fatima Saeed, said today's Ontario budget has no new climate action. Only notable thing in it for me in 2021, Ontario's grid was 94% emissions free. Oh, where did it go? Oh. And now it's 90% emissions free. So there's evidence that the electricity grid is getting more and more fossil fuels and more emissions, right as we need to lower the emissions that we have. And then there's the shift to natural gas. Yeah, and then the other ones are not really specific to the environment. There was also Joe Oliver, the chair of the Independent Electricity System Operator, is retiring, and Environmental Defense wrote about that. Maybe I'll check Ontario budget and environment. Ontario budget and environment. Maybe some other. I missed some groups. Just looking. Canadian Environmental Law Association. Canadian. I'm just seeing if the Canadian Environmental Law Association had anything on the budget. Sometimes they do. But they mostly focus on federal items. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just looking at some other groups. So the Canadian Environmental Law Association, they didn't seem to have anything there specifically about the Ontario budget. There might be something there. I didn't really look in depth. Eco justice. Um, no, they don't seem to have anything specific to the Ontario budget either, unless I look at latest news. Yeah, and then some of these groups are like more federally focused. Um, yeah, so there is an article. I'll look at the article from the Norwell last year, um, which the Norwell said is similar to this year's budget. There's an article called Money Talks and Ontario Government Pre-Election Budget Doesn't Spend Much on Climate. And as I showed at the beginning, highways, there's a lot more focus on highways than there was climate. 80 to 2. There's an increase in highway spending. Those focus on the Ring of Fire. Yeah, and then climate just appeals 5 times. This is from last year. And then there's no emissions to cutting greenhouse gases. And then there's an emission reference as about electric vehicles. Last year there was a photo of a highway. There was a focus on the Bradford bypass, and it would cut through Ontario's greenbelt. Yeah, Ring of Fire. Those not every Indigenous nation is supportive of the Ring of Fire development. And then there's a specific article about that. Electric vehicles. They're focusing on nuclear, hydrogen. Oh yeah, those are an article like TVO. I remember seeing this one. It's related to the budget. TVO electric hydro subsidy. yeah, so there's an article called "My Biggest Pet Peeve with Ontario's Budget" by Steve Pagan, and the um, second headline is "Should you be paying to subsidize my electricity use?" I don't think so, but the Ford government does. Um, and then, like the article says, no one likes paying taxes, uh, which is accurate to some extent. But taxes do pay for like services. Um, yeah, and then it should be fair, but but there's no way to the court system is not fair. It um, is placed. It benefits mostly people that don't need it, like people that use more electricity. Um, and it's $6.5 billion, which could be used for other things, including supporting healthcare, increasing investments into the environment. Um, and then 6.5 billion is more money in the 2022 election. It's more money than the ministries of economic development, environment, agricultural, northern development, mines, natural resources, and forestry, indigenous affairs, and labor, immigration, training, and skills development. It's also more money than the province spends on long-term care. And and then there's a quote: "Here's the worst of it. I'm getting my electricity consumption subsidized. That's right. The guy with a six-figure income gets his hydro subsidized, and so do a lot of other people like me. Does that make sense?" So that's a quote. Um, and then he gets $10, which means nothing. Um, so there's like a lot of people that won't even notice. Um, and it's a subsidy to increase emissions. Yeah, so very concerning. So I'm at the 17-minute mark. I'm just looking for where I left off. Oh, here it is. Okay. Um. Yeah. Back to the Ring of Fire. Um. There was a First Nation, Northern Global Mail, Niskanta First Nation, says it wasn't adequately consulted in King Ring of Fire environmental study. And it's Neskantaga, and it's an Ontario First Nation, a First Nation in Ontario, I should say, or within what is known as Ontario. and it says it wasn't adequately consulted in a key ring of fire environmental study, and says that the Australian mining company will have to use force against members of the First Nation before they would allow development. And I don't think I highlighted anything else. I'm just checking. Yeah, so they say that the government says that they've consulted First Nations in the budget, but they at least one First Nation is saying that they haven't been consulted on this issue. So I'm just going down. Oh yeah, I should mention that there's no section on the environment either, which is also problematic. There's a section called Building Highways, Transit, and Infrastructure projects. Um, there's not really anything specific about transit. It's just like a paragraph, but like it's focusing on the Bradford bypass, Highway 413, um, all things that are going to increase urban sprawl. Um, and then they've been extending the gas tax and fuel tax cuts until December 31st, 2023, which means that they'll even further. Oh, I haven't been watching the stream. Even further cutting um, what's the word? Even further subsidizing vehicle use. And they've been vocal about eliminating gas, the license plate sticker, and the road tolls as affordability measures. Uh, and yeah, my friend uh, uh, has a channel that's talking about like Go Transit and how it's built around um, Go Transit and how it's built around um, the calls. And yeah, so check out my homie Q Toro. He has a video called Toronto's Go Trains Subsidized Call Culture and Do Not Justify Paving the Greenbelt. And that's on YouTube. So that's a more detailed explanation uh, of that. So I'm not really a fan of that. I'm just looking for some other stuff I highlighted. Oh, wetlands only mentioned one time, I think. So not. But wetlands are being lost at an alarming rate. Um, there's a huge focus on steel and cutting greenhouse gas emissions specific to steel, but not really anywhere else. No mention of retrofits to housing, um, which is needed to address climate change. Older housing is less energy efficient, so that's a way to save money for a lot of people. Um, I'm not seeing anything that stands out. Well, I have a couple more minutes. Yeah, those focus on nuclear in this budget. It's just several pages, so it's. Oh, is this? I just saw some numbers. Um, yeah, the pandemic is an environmental issue. Um, um, because of where like degradation of the environment can cause an increase in pandemics, and look at the province is getting rid of sick days. Nor highlighted some other things. I'm just going to pause this. Oh yes, I'm back. So yeah, I said clean steel. Um, there's a lot of investments in that. Greenhouse gas emissions reduction specific to steel. Um, but that's good. There should be reductions in greenhouse gas emissions to steel, but it's strange that it's like seems to be the only main only main source of cutting emissions, and the focus on going to nuclear. New nuclear plants will take until 2030 to what's the word? Be up in operation. Um, and the government is also um, yeah, and then we need to reduce greenhouse gases significantly across the board, um, and increasing urban sprawl will not reduce emissions, even if the material is going into the buildings have less emissions. Um, I guess those steel um, goes into a lot of buildings. The other big thing is electric vehicle. They talk about like the history of electric vehicles, um, and that's going into the Ring of Fire. One of the problems with the Ring of Fire is you're impacting wetlands. Um, here, providing a reliable and clean electricity system for the long term. The government is using taking credit for things that the previous government did to reduce emissions, and it was noted that there was 90% emissions free today, but last year was 94% emissions free. So there's an increase in greenhouse gases, and that means that there's an increase in municipal greenhouse gases as well. Nuclear. And I should mention that like the federal government mentioned climate a lot more than the provincial government. Um, I think that might have been like the last thing that I highlighted. Um, Go Transit is being expanded, possibly. additional platforms. Um, there's a Light Whale. There's a Hazel McCallion line. Finch West LLT. There's a section on transit-oriented communities. I like that. Subways. And then there's a map of transit. Yeah, but yeah, it looks like it's all the time that I have for today. But I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and I plan on being back next week, and I might talk about the federal budget. There's also the Peterborough city budget that you can look up at connectptbo.ca. Yeah, thank you for listening, and bye for now. Yeah, so I'm just going to end my stream here, unless I don't see anyone in the chat. But I might go back to the. Actually, I might go back to the beginning to see if anything I missed, like the table of contents. Oh, what is this? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of focus on tax cuts. Yeah, and then those specific details. But I won't go into the green bond program. What's that? I missed that. The green bonds are a core component of Ontario's borrowing program and an important tool to help finance transit initiatives, extreme weather resilient infrastructure, as well as energy efficiency conservation projects. Those 28 projects, that doesn't seem like a lot. Most of them are clean transportation. Oh, most of them are energy efficiency and conservation. And climate adaptation is one project. And they're using they're using transit projects that really only benefit people in the cities, and a lot of them are only benefiting people in major cities, and maybe the suburbs. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, well, thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your night.